Welcome to Rock and Roll High School, your choice for in-depth and personal conversations with the most legendary artists in the history of contemporary music. Come with us as we explore the albums and songs that have become the soundtrack of our lives. Here's your host, Pete Ganbarg.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Rock and Roll High School. Our guest this week is one of the most thoughtful and influential voices to emerge from the era of new wave music, a songwriter, keyboard innovator, and humanist whose music helped redefine what pop could sound like in the 1980s, Howard Jones. Breaking through with songs like New Song, What Is Love, and Hide and Seek, Howard stood apart from his peers by pairing cutting-edge synthesizers with deeply personal, emotionally direct songwriting. His breakthrough albums, Humans Live and Dream Into Action, produced a string of international hits including Things Can Only Get Better and No One Is to Blame, songs that still resonate decades later for their honesty, empathy, and clarity. Classically trained and technologically fearless, Howard was one of the first solo artists to tour using sequencers and synth rigs, proving that electronic music could be warm, melodic, and unmistakably human. At a time when much of new wave leaned dark or ironic, Howard's music offered something different. Optimism without naivete, introspection without cynicism. Beyond the hits, Howard Jones has built a remarkably sustainable career, continuing to write, record, and tour on his own terms, guided by a lifelong Buddhist philosophy that emphasizes personal responsibility, compassion, and growth. On this episode, we talk about the songs, the technology, the spirituality, and the long game, how Howard Jones turned electronic pop into a vehicle for meaning, and why his work still matters today.
Don't try to live your life for one day. Don't go speed your time away. Don't try to live your life for one day. Don't go speed your time away. Don't try to live your life for one day. Don't go speed your time away. Don't try to live your life for one day. Don't go speed your time away.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Rock and Roll High School. Very happy today to be joined live from Somerset, England. Howard Jones. Hi, Howard.
Hi, Pete. How are you doing?
I'm great. Very happy to be speaking with you today. I'm a fan of your music for a long time. And you are home in Somerset, and you've just come off a pretty extensive tour.
Yes, that's right. I mean, altogether we did 60 shows this year. And the last leg of it was like 40 shows. So we covered a lot of ground. We did America and Europe, Germany and the UK, and we went to Mexico in the middle there. So it was really fantastic, though, I got to say.
Do you still enjoy being out there touring?
I absolutely love it, and I'm loving it even more because I've got such a great team now that I've been able to build up over the years, and amazing band, and of course you can't do it without the crew as well. And so my aim is for everyone to have as good a time as possible on the road, because it's difficult. You're away from home, and it's like a sort of little community that's traveling around and dealing with all the problems and all the good bits together. I love it.
You're home now. I saw that you have some dates from the spring on your website. Anything going on between now and then? We're recording this, by the way, in mid-December of 2025.
Well, I'm hoping to have time to write some more new things. I've got lots of ideas. I mean, that's the thing. I've been touring so much this year that really haven't had a chance to work on new things. It's all been focusing on the live show. So hopefully I will have time to get some new pieces together.
Was the last studio record you made, was it Dialogue, or was there one after that?
Well, there was a piano album called Piano Composed, which is, a collection of 10 piano compositions that I've been working on for the last few years. So, there was that in between. And there's some re-releases as well. We did, we're always doing that.
Right, of course. The 40th anniversary celebrating in 2025 of Dream Into Action. The Piano Composed record is really interesting to me because of the collaboration with Steinway on the Spirio. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, the story, I mean, if I go right back to the beginning, I was doing a couple of shows in Singapore, and Jan and I went for a walk in the local upmarket mall, and there happened to be a Steinway showroom there. And I had to go in, of course, because I'm, I played the piano since I was 7, and I have a Steinway at home. So I walked in, and the piano was playing itself in the corner, some amazing music. And I thought, I didn't know that Steinway had developed this. And I thought, all these bells went off in my head about what I could do. If I could program stuff as well as play it, I'm sure I could create some unique pieces for this instrument. And then it took me months to actually make a connection with Steinway. I asked all my friends, I sent emails everywhere. And then in the end, my friend was giving a little concert in the Steinway showroom in London. So I went along to support him and got to meet the manager there. And he knew all my music, and he'd worked for Roland, and he'd bought all my records, and which was amazing. And he said, yeah, I'll set you up a piano in this room here. Come in, spend the day, bring a computer and play it as much as you want and do whatever you want. And that was it. I ended up buying that very piano that they let me experiment on and swapped it out for my one at home.
So when you walked into the showroom and you saw the piano playing itself in Singapore, that's almost like a modern version of an old-fashioned player piano, right?
Yes, you're absolutely right. And what they've done, they've made it super accurate. So when you play in, it remembers and plays back to you exactly what you put in. But the most exciting thing I've done with it was recently I gave a concert in Hamburg at the Steinway factory, and it was broadcast to 34 cities around Europe and the States.
So broadcast live into Steinway showrooms around the world.
Yes, that's right. So they were seeing the video of me playing, but also the data from the piano was being transmitted to the pianos in all of those places. And it was like the coolest thing.
It's almost a full circle moment for you, because you said, when you were 7, you started taking piano lessons. And obviously, those piano lessons led to your experimentation on synthesizers. And now, so many years later, you're back to the Steinway, now kind of doing its own electronic thing. It's crazy,
Yeah, I mean, I could see the possibilities of like composing a piece and then bringing it back into Logic and enhancing and orchestrating the piece that I'd already played, if you know what I mean. So I could like do multiple octaves playing, very fast runs that you couldn't physically do with 2 hands, or even 4.
Right.
And so that was the possibility that really excited me. So that's what I did for that piano composed album.
One thing I didn't realize before I was getting ready to talk to you today is that even though everybody associates you with England, you actually spent some time growing up in Canada. And when you were 9, your dad moved you guys to, was it Ottawa?
Yes, yeah.
And as a very Canadian thing, the first concert you ever saw was in an ice hockey ring.
Yes.
Very Canadian.
It was the most amazing lineup. I mean, talk about eclectic. It was the 1910 Fruit Gum Company started out, and then the Trogs, and then the Who.
Wow.
And they smashed all their gear up at the end.
From bubblegum pop to, to exploding drum kits and Keith Moon. That's crazy. And how old were you? You were around 12 or 13 at the time?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think I would have been about 13, yeah.
So how did you reconcile this crazy guitar smashing amplified rock music with the classical piano lessons that you'd been taking? Did you realize that, hey, I want to do this?
I'd always been mad crazy for pop music and rock music. My mother always had the radio on in the kitchen, and it was always pop music. So I grew up with that. And, the piano lessons, they wanted me to do that because they were Welsh and they wanted to keep the tradition going in the family. Although they didn't play themselves, they wanted me to. So, but, I saw the classical music as my way to get good at playing the pop and rock stuff, because Keith Emerson was my hero. And, he was a brilliant concert level classical pianist and also like the best rocker you could get, for keyboards. So he was a absolute hero.
Right. So when you decided to start making music with other people, Keith Emerson, ELP, Genesis, those were early influences, right? You had a group called
Yes.
Warrior in the UK?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. While I was at school in the UK, we formed a band, and it started off instrumental. And so I wrote all the pieces. They were complex 20-minute multi-sectioned pieces that were very, very difficult for the rest of the band to learn and play, but they did, bless them. And that then evolved to, we got a singer to come in as well, and I used to write the vocal lines for them.
But the music itself was very prog.
I guess it was prog, yeah. It was pretty melodic, and it had a lot of classical influence as well. So I suppose it was a bit like the Nice, pre
Right, the
ELP.
Nice, right, another Keith
Yeah.
Emerson group,
Yeah.
the Nice. At
Yes.
what point did you decide to evolve the sound? I heard that you were inspired by the song Enola Gay, is that right, by OMD?
Well, I'd been to music college and did 2.5 years, and I was playing in bands the whole time I was there.
And music college was very serious chops, piano,
Yeah,
classical,
serious
right?
chops.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, 9 hours practice a day, is what was expected, and that's what we did. But then I'd leave college and go to the local radio station, Radio Piccadilly, and play one song every 20 minutes, like a cover of Stevie Wonder, or sometimes I'd slip in my own compositions as well. My favorite thing was I did a whole piano version of Bohemian Rhapsody in its entirety, which took me ages to learn, but it was like 9 minutes long.
On acoustic piano?
Yes, acoustic piano. And I'd get to, it was from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. And I'd then sleep in a cupboard there and go back to college, in the morning. So it was pretty intense.
Well, that's
life.
kind of ironic because at Live Aid you played Freddie Mercury's piano, right?
Yes, which happened to be a Steinway as well.
So everything is interconnected here, we're finding.
It's so interconnected, yes.
So at what point do you start taking your classical chops and your piano chops and experimenting with synthesized keyboard playing?
Well, interestingly enough, because I was doing these songs once every 20 minutes on the radio, I was able to do some experiments, and they had a couple of rudimentary synthesizers in their control room, so I would do some playing with that. The band that we just talked about, Warrior, the drummer made me a monophonic synth from a electronics magazine kit. Having seen Emerson at the Isle of Wight Festival in 1970 play the huge modular Moog, I'd heard how amazing synths could be in that context, and that was, any chance to get anywhere close to it. The synth he made me would go out of tune all the time, and but it was a synth, and it was amazing. So anything with keys, really.
Do you remember the first song that you wrote on a synth?
Oh wow!
Or were you writing on piano and then applying the synth treatment to it?
Yeah. So the process was that I had a piano at home, and I had lots of piano students because that was one of the ways I was earning money to fund everything.
You were teaching piano lessons.
Yeah, I was teaching piano, and one of my students lent me a drum machine. And so I put the drum machine on top of the piano and was playing along to the terrible like bossa nova rhythms and stuff like that you had in those days. It was very primitive, but it sparked this idea of the one-man electronic show, that I could have keyboards and a drum machine and link everything together with MIDI and triggers and little sequences. And that's what I set about doing.
At what point did you start saying, you know what, I could use this technology and almost become like a one-man band? And I don't need these warrior guys anymore, or they don't need me. We can kind of go on our separate ways.
Yeah, well, when I came back from college, I'd fallen out of touch with the local music scene, in High Wycombe, and so there wasn't anybody around that I could, thought of that I could, form a band with. So I thought, well, I'm gonna do this thing on my own with my synths and work it out. And I started off with a Fender Rhodes piano with a keyboard on top and a drum machine, and it was really terrible. And I used to hide away in the corner. I had no sort of charisma about my performance or anything. It was really terrible, but it gradually did develop. I realized I really needed to stand up and play, and I needed to get a few more synths around me and drum machines. And, it just evolved bit by bit. And the great thing is that I was able to try all the new compositions out on a live audience. So by the time I finally got signed, I had a whole album of very well developed and proven songs that I'd done in front of audiences for about 2 or 3 years.
Where were you playing these shows? Were these shows you were booking yourself? Were they local pubs?
There were local pubs. Sometimes we would get a gig up in London, opening up for somebody. It started to get popular, and we started to hire coaches that we could take our fans with us to the gigs we did in London. So, because that's all they were interested in was filling the place, So like it is now, I guess. So I think our record was 6 coaches that took my audience, up to London, and it was such fun. It was really good fun.
So it's kind of like instant fan base, even if it's not in your hometown, right? So you're shuttling your fans to other shows in other cities. Talk about when you rented the Marquee Club out and you invited labels.
Monday night is always dead for clubs and gigs. So we had 4 Mondays in a row in 1 month, and we brought our audience every time to that. And all the labels came down, all the publishers came down, and nobody got it at all. Nobody got it at all. I've kept all the rejection letters and stuff. And it's like, what? A one-man, one guy with a load of synths around him and a mime artist. You must be joking.
Right. Well, let's talk about your mime artist, Jed, who performed with you for over a decade.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Jed was a really good friend and used to support me coming to those early shows in the pubs and the clubs, And he used to dance to the music. He was, really inspired by the music. And I looked out one day and I thought, he should be up on the stage with me. He's so good. I'm enjoying watching him out in the audience. He should be up on the stage with me. So we then concocted this idea of creating characters for every song that would be, he would dress up as all different things, robots and half punk, half businessman costumes. and we did all kinds of crazy things, anything to get, attention, because I had to cover stuff because all the synths and the drums, they had to be programmed in between each song. There was no memories or anything.
Right.
I had like Chinograph marks on everything to get the sounds right and the tempos right. So I needed, a kind of distraction from me trying to get it all together. And Jed was absolutely brilliant.
Right. Pay no attention to the man behind the keyboards. Keep your eye on the mime.
That's it.
There's a great video on YouTube that I saw of you guys playing on Top of the Pops and playing New Song, and he's literally got chains on, break off your mental chains.
That's right. He's got chains, and they're plastic chains that we bought from our local garden centre. It's like
whatever works.
Budgets. We didn't have the budget.
So if all the labels passed because they didn't get the one-man band plus mime at the Marquee Club, at what point do you get signed to Warner UK and ultimately Elektra? Is it the next gig?
So I used to do residency in my hometown, High Wycombe, every Saturday night, pretty much. And Stiff Records came down, and Paul Conroy was the marketing director, I think, for the company. And Paul got it that night.
Paul was working for Stiff at that time?
Yes, he was. Yes. Right. So he was working for Stiff, and they weren't so sure. And legend has it, and Paul did tell me this, he said, on their way back to London from my show, they said, oh no, this guy's not for us, we don't get it, you know. Paul said, if you're going to pass on this guy, you better let me out of the car now, because we missed out on Depeche Mode. We're not missing out on Howard Jones.
Wow.
That's right. So Paul stuck his neck out for me. And so reluctantly, I was going to sign to Stiff. And, you know, I was ready. I'd been waiting my whole life to sign a record deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because one thing that our audience might realize, you weren't a kid. You weren't 17, 18 years old. You were in your late 20s at this point.
That's right. I was 28 when I finally got signed. And so there I was waiting at this great gig we were doing up in London to sign the contract. And Paul comes in the dressing room and says, don't sign it. Don't sign it.
Wow.
I'm going to Warner Brothers with Rob Dickens and Max Hole, and I want to take you with me. And Rob and Max were totally on board.
So did Dave Robinson at Stiff ever come around and say, yeah, he was right, we were wrong?
No, I mean, I to be honest, I don't think Stiff was the right home for me, to be honest. You know, if you think of the roster, which I think is an amazing roster, but I don't know how
Elvis Costello and Nick Lowe
and Madness and,
yes.
you know, I mean, great, amazing artists. But I don't think that was the right place for me. So with WEA, as it was known at the time.
Right, and it ended up being, you know, your major label home for most of your career when you never signed to another major. It was Elektra from the beginning to the end for you until you went independent, right?
That's right, exactly. It was great because the three of them were just taking over that company, and they were absolutely fired up about breaking every artist that they signed.
Right.
You know,
these are legendary record men. Rob Dickens, Max Hole, who you mentioned, legendary names inside the Warner music system in Europe. But also Paul, the fact that he had them stop the car, let me get out. If you're not signing him to Stiff, I'm leaving and I'm going to take him to wherever I go next. And he did.
Yeah, it was quite a story, that. And, you know, Paul went on to be managing director of Virgin Records and, you know, and was responsible for the Spice Girls.
Right. And that was before he got into publishing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the records were already made at this point, or did you have to make them once you signed to Warner? Because I know that you've said everything went really fast after that.
I have to be really grateful to Max Hole here, because Max said that I should be produced by Rupert Hine. And because Rupert was a keyboard player, he was also a bit, you know, left of center in terms of record making. He'd just done the Fix records, and Max thought he would be the perfect person for me to work with, and he was so right. He was so right. We made the first album in 6 weeks. All the songs were written. It was mixed and recorded in 6 weeks. And
that was with Rupert and Steve, his engineer,
and Stephen Taylor, yeah. And they're very much a team. You know, I mean, Steve just brought so much to the record.
And how many live instruments were used on the album?
On that first record, I played everything because we weren't using computers then. It was just sequencers. The only live playing was Trevor Moraes played some extra drum parts, and that was it. I played, it was all keyboards and keyboard bass and programmed drums, and it was basically what I did live. Yeah.
And once that first album came out, New Song was the first single, right? And it immediately went gangbusters.
Don't crack up, bend your brain, see both sides, throw off your mental chains.
Well, it didn't get off to a great start. I think it came in at number 96 or something, and it was a very slow-moving single going up the charts. I think it took 3 months to get to number 3, and at any moment we thought we might lose it, but I was on tour at the time opening up for China Crisis.
Right.
And when the single got to number 44, and that was in like September 83, that was it. I did Top of the Pops with Jed. You said you probably saw that performance, and then it just took off.
Talk about the creation of the song, because I heard that your writing process is melody first, lyrics second.
Yeah.
Or
yes.
Music bed first?
Yes, music bed first. And then I've always got ideas about what I want to write about. But then, once the mood of the song's been established, then I can start working on the melody and then the lyrics to fit that.
I think one of the reasons that your music connected with people is so many of the other synth-based artists of the time were making music that had a much darker theme to the lyrics and the concepts, and yours were more uplifting. Talk about the creation of New Song, and that was inspired by you working in a factory, right?
It was kind of autobiographical, that song. I've been waiting for so long, to get to this point where I could release my, records and be on the radio and stuff, to come in and sing this song, don't crack up, bend your brain, see both sides, throw off your mental chains, and don't let fear and lack of confidence take away your dream. I thought to myself, well, if I can do this, then I want to put out the message that other people can do this as well, because we've all got something unique within us. So you just got to bring that out and believe in it and take it to where it, realize the potential that every person has. And that was always been my theme with the lyrics.
Right. And then after New Song did so well, you followed that right up with another hit with What Is Love.
Yeah, that's right. It was very exciting recording What Is Love, because New Song was like riding high in the charts whilst we were making it. And so we felt this great optimism that at least it would get a chance at radio now, to be played. And there was a lot of excitement around making the record, yeah.
Is the intro part on What Is Love? I've read that it's a bit Keith Emerson inspired, perhaps.
I think there's a lot of Keith in my work. But yeah, fanfares, that's what I think of it as. Absolutely, 100%.
The lyric of What Is Love, you mentioned your wife, Jan, earlier. You guys have been married close to almost 50 years coming up in a year or two, right? 48 years.
Yeah.
And it was Jan who bought you your first synth.
Well, there's more of a story than that. So
please tell us.
I would, I bought, a few synths and drum machines that I could afford. So I was working in a factory and giving piano lessons and doing odd jobs, anything to keep the money coming in. So one of the jobs that I got was doing a fruit and veg delivery service, going to people's homes and selling them fruit and veg. Like the most crazy, stupid thing for me to do. But I did. But one night we were out with the van, Jan and I, and a customer, and a drunken driver hit the front of the van.
Oh, geez.
Like they'd already hit 6 or 7 cars before they hit us. I think they were 4 times over the limit. And the van rolled over Jan, trapped her underneath the van.
Oh, my goodness.
And broke the poor customer's leg. And I was in the van at the time. It was like being inside an explosion. And so Jan was rushed to hospital. She damaged her back and got some compensation from insurance. I think it was like £6,000 or something, and she wanted to give it to me to buy.
Wow, I
synths,
did not know that.
But we both realized that night that we both could have died. So there's no time to waste. Just go for it. Don't have plan B. It just just absolutely commit. And then I can't remember exactly how many months later, but several months later, I had a record deal and we were off.
Well, they say everything happens for a reason, so who knows what would have happened without the fruit vending job. Yeah,
exactly.
So at what point, the album ultimately goes to number one in the UK, Humans Lib, and then you follow it up with Dream Into Action. Like we said, it's the 40th anniversary year here in 2025. And that had more smashes with Things Can Only Get Better and Like to Get to Know You Well. You want to talk about the creation of the second album? Because the old adage is you have your whole life to write the first album and 6 weeks to follow it up.
No, that's true. That's true. It was difficult because I was on the road the whole time as well. So I wasn't even at home to sort of get my head around writing new things. So what I did was I had a little recording set up every gig that I went to, and my wonderful roadies would set up my little studio in the dressing room. So I worked on new material there, and then when finally the tour finished, came home and finished the songs off. But it was, there's no doubt, it was I felt under pressure because, it'd take me so long to get a deal. I was, as you said before, I was 28. So, I was worried that I wouldn't be able to keep it going with this next album. But fortunately, there was quite a few songs on there that were hits, and especially in America, it really it did so much better in America than it did in the UK.
Which one? The second album?
Yeah, the second album. Dream Into Action. Yeah.
Interesting. What was the process like with Rupert going in and Steve to record the second record versus the first?
We wanted to expand the palette of instruments we used, and we used, live instruments like, cello, and we had a brass section in. We had people come in and play steel drums, and there was we widened the palette of the instruments we're going to use, which was great, but very much the same kind of vibe. Working with them was always such fun. Rupert just made it he never let me do any more than 4 vocal takes,
right?
Because he wanted to capture the excitement of singing those songs. He didn't want me to be laboring over countless details, and that worked really well.
Yeah, smart.
That worked really well. Yeah.
Did your brother play bass on the album, on Dream Into
He
Action?
did, yeah. That's right. Martin, my brother, played bass, and just in a few places, because mainly it was played on keyboards, right. And Martin was part of my touring band for Dream Into Action as well.
So it's funny, in celebrating the 40th anniversary release of Dream Into Action here in 2025, you've been touring for it. There have been some great reissues of both that and Humans Lib on Cherry Red, the great label, who reissued both of those records. You recorded a performance of Things Can Only Get Better for the Jimmy Kimmel show the night that his show was taken off the air. And he's mentioned, this was a few months ago, he mentioned that he heard you sound checking and saying, oh, things can only get better. Maybe that's a good omen.
I tell you, I talk about being in the eye of the storm that day. Because, obviously I've never done the Jimmy Kimmel show before. So we're waiting to do it. And there seems to be an extra sort of, anxiety or tension around.
Something was going on that day, right?
Something was going on. But nobody would tell me what it was because they didn't want to upset our performance, which is probably quite a wise thing to do. But we went, the band all set up, we recorded the song. And I looked out into the audience, and it was like people were super fired up, and they were really getting into it. And I thought, is this what normally happens, here? And then as I came off the stage after we'd finished, my manager said, he showed me the internet story of the Kimmel Show being taken off. And so everyone in that audience had just found out they're going to lose their jobs. And the lyrics of Things Can Only Get Better, it goes, treating today as though it was the final show.
Little did you know how spot on that was.
And and then, because it was supposed to go out, I guess, the following week, I think. And of course it didn't. But the show came back on, which was great.
It finally aired. Your performance finally aired a few days ago.
A few days ago, it finally aired. So yeah, it was.
You're wearing a quite sparkly sequin jacket, by the way.
Yeah.
On that performance.
Yes. Oh yes. Yeah.
It's funny. Speaking of your fashion choices on live performances, I was watching the great, what did they call it? The Great Synthesizer Showdown at the Grammys, where it's you, it's Thomas Dolby, it's Herbie Hancock, and it's Stevie Wonder, all performing in this futuristic, almost like robotic setup. And you're there with your faux hawk and your keytar, and then Herbie Hancock takes out his keytar. I don't know what Thomas Dolby is doing, but it's fascinating to watch now. It's like almost time capsule-y.
Here are the incredible Howard Jones, Thomas Dolby, Herbie Hancock, and Stevie Wonder.
Dateline February 26, 1985, Los Angeles, Earth, assignment, Grammy Awards ceremony. Human Unit 1, please identify yourself.
Howard Jones.
I mean, that was quite a moment, really, for keyboard players and electronic music all around the world, because suddenly having Herbie and Stevie, legends, and keyboard players, and me and Tom, the new boys, and it was kind of legitimizing,
right,
the whole use of electronic instruments and drum machines and all that stuff, and it did all change that day. It changed.
Amazing, because when you think about it, back then it was a new technology. Now we just take it for granted. But 1985 was such a key year for you in so many ways. Not only did you get to perform with Herbie, Thomas, and Stevie at the Grammys, but you also performed at Live Aid on Freddie Mercury's piano, as we mentioned. You had the bravery to perform solo acoustic piano, in front of hundreds of thousands of people. But I love the fact that backstage you were tapped on the shoulder, and there's David Bowie complimenting you on your success in America.
Yeah, I know. It was that was a wonderful moment for me, because I've always, a huge influence on me as a musician, songwriter, but as a person, So for him to recognize me and know what I was doing, that just blew me away. I must say that was a great moment. There's another thing that happened as well, was that we were going to do another song that day with my backing vocalist. They were called Aphrodisiac, and Karen Wheeler was one of Aphrodisiac, amazing lady, from Soul to Soul.
A great singer.
And so we were rehearsing Life in One Day. We were going to do it a cappella, and backstage, and two people came out of their dressing rooms to have a listen, and one was Bowie and one was Pete Townsend, and they stood like 2 meters away listening to us.
Wow.
That was really cool.
I also heard that you spent time with Paul McCartney that day too, and Linda took a photograph of the two of you.
Yeah. Oh yes, it's one of my most treasured possessions, that photo that she took of me and Paul. And, we're all queuing up to have our photograph taken by David Bailey, the celebrated English photographer. Everyone was being photographed by him. And Paul and Linda were, in the next in the queue behind me. And so we just chatted for, I don't know, half an hour about all kinds of things, you know, both vegetarians and
Yes.
what do you feed your dogs and all, you know, all that stuff. And no, it was amazing. It was really fantastic.
What an amazing experience.
Yeah, it was. I'm so fortunate to have had that.
And that's all happening in 1985. Things Can Only Get Better was such a big record, both in the UK and in the US. It was actually used in season 3 of Stranger Things, which is set in 1985. So, you know, in that scene, the guys are in the mall and they're looking around, and you hear for a long time, you hear Things Can Only Get Better.
And do you feel scared? But I won't stop and falter. And if we throw it all away, things can only get better.
Yeah, I think they played almost the whole song.
They did.
Which,
They did.
Which is like, because I was such a fan of the show. I still am, massive fan of the show. So I was delighted that they wanted to have that.
No, it's a great homage to you and your music. You mentioned that at a certain point, the fortunes changed. You became much bigger in America than you did back home. And No One Is to Blame was a much bigger hit in America than it was here. Talk about the two different versions of that and how you came to record it with Phil Collins.
So the original version on Dream Into Action is very much like stripped back version of the song, and it's still the fans' favorite version. But I thought that the song had potential to get on the radio if it was done in the right way. And I tried something with Rupert and Steve, you know, to try and make it more of a radio thing, and it didn't quite work. And so, I mean, I did know Phil because I'd done a lot of the Prince's Trust concerts, you know, where we did concerts together. Phil, I was the keyboard player in that, and so I knew Phil, and so, you know, sent the track to him, and he really liked the song and was really up for doing a version with me. And in 2 weekends at Genesis Studios, we recorded it, and it just turned out amazingly and was, you know, a massive hit in America.
And you want her, and she wants you. We want everyone, and you want her, and she wants you. No one ever is to blame.
And you ended up headlining Madison Square Garden in 87, right?
Yeah. Yes, that's right. That was a dream. Growing up in the UK, it always seemed like that was the Holy Grail. If you played Madison Square Garden, you know, you really made it.
You made it, right. And I love what you said, that the original crew that you had from the Nag's Head days and the Marquee Club days were with you at the Garden. Yeah. They were still your team. Yeah,
absolutely. The lighting, sound, all my team was there, and you know, we'd done that together, and that felt so good. Yeah, very good.
You know, I didn't realize that after you worked with Rupert Hine, the One-to-One album was actually produced by the legend Arif Mardin.
Yeah.
How was that experience for you?
That was absolutely amazing. We did half of it in Dublin. Arif came over, and we recorded there. We worked with some Irish musicians, and then we went to New York and worked with, you know, like Nile Rodgers played on the album. I mean, we had like the most amazing people come in and play on that record. And it was a different kind of education for me from working with Rupert and Steve, which was obviously amazing. But then to work with Arif in a totally different way, in a totally different approach was really good for me in terms of learning about making records.
Right. And then the next album crossed that line. You worked with Ian and Chris and Ross, who had all worked with Tears for Fears, and you had another big hit in America with Everlasting Love.
Yeah, that's right. It was great. It was really great. Again, working with Chris and Ross and Ian was, they really put me through my paces especially with vocals. It was the opposite approach to Rupert. I did like hundreds of takes to get what they felt was my best,
No two producers are alike, right?
That's right. That's so true.
An interesting thing that I've noticed about your writing is that a lot of the songs, most of the songs, are written by you 100%.
Yeah, yes.
Which is unusual.
Yeah, I don't know why that is. I have been collaborating a bit more recently with my friend BT, who's, American electronic artist, absolute genius.
Let's talk about BT for a second. BT is, a genius, Brian Transo, but everybody calls him BT. You guys have made how many records together?
We've actually done like 4 tracks now, I think, together. But also, I'm working on a project, one track for his new album, and so we wrote together in the south of France. So we sort of seeded the song down there, and then I worked on the vocal lines because it's going to be a duet between BT and a lady singer. So that was fun for me to do.
That's great.
So, yeah.
Excellent. We talked about the positivity of your lyrics. How does your faith play into the uplifting optimism of most of your material?
I've been practicing Nichiren Buddhism, and because people say Zen Buddhism, I don't. There's lots of different types of Buddhism, but the one that I practice, I chant Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, which is based on the Lotus Sutra. But it's been I've been practicing since 1993, and it's been the most amazing rock, really, for my life. Because, when you do this kind of job that I do, you can easily get thrown, and carried away with success and the way people feel about you. But, the great thing about my Buddhism is that, it emphasizes that we're all equal, and the aim for us is to create a more peaceful world, create a world where people are respected, where people are cherished, really. And so that's become the motivation for what I do. So that kind of, informs every part of my work.
Yeah, which is really important. And I can't stress enough that the strength of the songs, is the reason why 40 plus years later, you're still touring, you still have this audience, the songs are still getting exposed on syncs like we talked about on Stranger Things and things like that. But I read in 2022, somebody asked you the 5 albums that you can't live without. And you mentioned ELP, Brain Salad Surgery. You mentioned Scritti Politti, which is interesting, the Cupid and Psyche album. But you also mentioned Sgt. Pepper, which, is the combination of songwriting and production, which is kind of the gold standard, as well as a Donald Fagen album. I know you've covered IGY, and Donald's music has inspired you as well.
Yeah. Actually, so I wouldn't have remembered what I'd said, but those two, all those albums, I would stick with. Maybe I would add.
Well, there was a Bob Marley album on there as well.
Yeah, I'd probably add Surf's Up as well to that.
Beach Boys, Surf's Up.
Yeah, the Beach Boys. Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's quite an eclectic mix, isn't it, of music? But that's what I love. I mean, I love all kinds of music. Anything that's done well and done with spirit and the energy and and care, it just gets me.
Great songs, recorded
Great
well.
songs.
So as we wrap up, like I said, we're recording this towards the end of 2025. What are you looking forward to for 2026 and beyond?
I'm really looking forward to touring again with the amazing band and team that I've got, because it's taken a while to get to this point, and it just feels like everything's coming together nicely now. I mean, it's after all this time, 40 or odd years since I, started making records. I just want to, finish off this last part of my career in style, and but also with the songs, I always give them a new set of clothes, so nothing feels like it's locked in time back in the day. You know what I mean? It's like it's given a fresh. I like to give things a fresh new look each time, so that it stays relevant to, to maybe what's going on and what I'm listening to now.
Do you notice different faces each time you come back? Are they getting younger with the exposure to a new audience?
I'm seeing more young people in the audience, which I get very excited about, because they are coming to the music for the first time, and and that's really, really amazing. And then also, I want to say to the people who've been with me since the beginning that it's still evolving. It's not stuck in like a museum piece. Right. The music is still evolving. Even the songs, there's a new twist in them. That's what I'm doing. We just funny today, I've been listening to two things. One was this record live at the Marquee, which was recorded in 1983.
Wow.
At the Marquee. So I've been listening to that, checking that, because they want to release a single from it. And then also I've been listening to, we recorded the Current show in Leicester. So it was like, I thought, wow, that's amazing. I'm doing that in the same day. So the evolution from that early time to now. But the thing that connects them for me is the energy. It's still really full of energy. The solo shows with Jed, and then, the big production that we're doing now. It's still got that, energy, and I'm really proud of that.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's a testament to you and the songs, and, Jed's energy back then at the Marquee Club and the band's energy now. But 2026, looking forward to seeing you back on the road, and thank you for your time today. Thank you for all the great music, Howard Jones.
Well, thank you very much for interviewing me, Pete. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks to Howard Jones for joining us this week. Howard is proof that success in music doesn't have to come at the expense of integrity or longevity. His songs didn't just capture a moment in the 1980s, they captured ideas that age well: self-awareness, accountability, empathy, and hope. Whether it's No One Is to Blame with its clear-eyed emotional maturity, or Things Can Only Get Better, which has taken on a life far beyond the charts, Howard's catalog continues to speak because it was never built on trends alone. For more info on Howard, including upcoming tour dates, check out his website at howardjones.com. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time for another episode of Rock and Roll High School.
Rock and Roll High School is a presentation of Pure Tone Music, produced by Pete Ganbarg with assistance from Steve Leeds, Joe Pomerico, Dana Stenson, Aaron Manuza, Christina Katsamanidis, and Rich Mahan. Please visit our website at rockschoolpodcast.com for past episodes and information on what's coming next. All rights reserved.